So keep on going with your silly dream by Piter on AO3. Read by Lily6645. This fic may include suicidal thoughts. That is your warning. Chapter 36. Probable concussions and giant Iceman. Izuku couldn't breathe as they began to fall. The guy still holding his hand, however, had no problem screaming his lungs out. Izuku would have told the guy to shut up if he wasn't focused on, not getting them both impaled by ice. He kicked off the wall, narrowly avoiding a particularly sharp tip from the main blast. He twisted the civilian above him so Izuku would hopefully land first and break some of the impact. He loosened his body as much as possible before he smacked against the hard, unforgiving ground. His mouth opened soundlessly as he breathed was knocked out of him, and he skidded forward into an, of course, ice beam. His head smacked against it so hard it felt like his ears were ringing. Hell, the ringing was the only thing he could hear. He was going to be feeling that tomorrow. He grimaced, cracking his eyes open. The man that came down with him was staring at Izuku, terrified. Izuku wanted to reassure him, just like All Might. Was All Might helping evacuate? Had they found the villain? He shakily forced himself up, through the pain and the nausea and the dizziness. Despite it all, Izuku stood. The vigilante gave the crying man a thumbs up and a pat on the back, sitting him back against a wall. Hopefully, he'd be spotted by a hero. Now, though, Izuku needed to worry about the students that had gotten stuck or hit by the ice. There had been stragglers. His head hurt. Would he see Kachan down here? He hoped not. He jogged forward, ignoring flames shooting from the audience. Maybe they'd found the villain. Was All Might helping? He didn't really want to see him either. He still couldn't hear, or focus, actually. Izuku leapt over a loose piece of rubble, glancing around carefully. Still no sign of. He yelped, jumping away from a white substance that melted the ground where he landed. He held his hands up, making eye contact with a few girls from 1A in cheerleader uniforms. "Who are you?" a pink-skinned girl demanded, her voice muffled behind a bull ringing. Had hand ready to toss more acid. Must be Mina. Uraraka had mentioned her. "I'm not a villain." Izuku attempted to sound calm, keeping the stress and stutter out of his voice. One wrong move and he glanced at Uraraka. "Like we'd believe that." Izuku cleared his throat awkwardly. "I'm kind of a vigilante in Musatafu. I think people call me Yahoo now." "You don't look like him," Uraraka chimed in suspiciously. "I've been told you don't talk," a taller black-haired girl said curiously. "So why are you, if that truly is you?" "I gave up. Now, can we please keep moving before we get frozen for standing here too long?" Izuku almost gasped at his own tone. He was being sassy to some stranger. To one of Uraraka's classmates. He'd need to apologize somehow one day. Uraraka was staring at him, face focused. We don't know he's not a villain, Mina argued. Look at him! He's wearing an All Might mask. He doesn't look like a villain to me. Izuku blinked in confusion before he zeroed in on the floating uniform atop the taller girl's back. An invisibility quirk? Was it permanent? Or could she turn it off? Could she see herself? There's more of us than in him if he tries anything. Let's please get moving. We saw what happened to Hagakure. The vigilante recalled ice creeping up people's legs. That explains why the girl wasn't walking then. And so Izuku was checking for both other students and an exit with some of the girls of 1A. He avoided Uraraka as much as possible, but again, it was hard considering he was running with them. Hey, stop! That's Todoroki! Hagakure gasped, causing Ponytail Girl to take a sharp right, breathing coming out in small white puffs. A large slab of ice was covering the dual-haired boy, and his eyes were shut. His once pristine white hair was painted red and black, pulling a wince from Izuku. He glanced over only to see the black-haired girl pull a pipe from her arm. Had Uraraka mentioned her? Why couldn't he remember anything? With a simple wedge and push, Todoroki was free and being carried on Izuku's back. They continued forward. Shit. That was 4 entrances blocked by either ice or rubble. The only ones that hadn't been blocked by the initial blast. It wasn't safe to climb or float out, not with the rampaging villain in the stands and panicked crowd of people, so they simply kept looking. Apparently 2 1B kids were fine, but the blonde one refused to stay near them. They were hero students though, so they'd probably be okay. Todoroki walked silently next to them. He was having the least trouble walking on the slippery ice, much thicker than it had been previously. Izuku couldn't stop his eyes from lingering. He was curious, despite the boy almost taking him out when he first awoke. Something about him was just familiar. Not in the I saw him on TV way, or I've seen his father way. No way. It was the color of his left eye, the shape of his nose. Hell, it was in the way he walked. He blinked and looked away, shaking his head. Deku still won't answer, Araka sighed, worry coating her tone. What if he got stabbed, or frozen, or that sharp, super strong villain the heroes are fighting up there killed him? No, Izuku's chest felt tight. This wasn't happening. He wasn't supposed to be worrying her. His phone once again buzzed in his pocket. I'm sorry, Uraraka. I'm sure the heroes are taking care of things up there. Mina patted the brunette's shoulder. I'm sure he's busy trying to not get trampled by the crowd. Izuku awkwardly cleared his throat. Todoroki? Would you, maybe melt the ice with your... No. Okay. Izuku almost bashed his face into the wall, All Might's mask and all. The group froze as a large explosion peaked over the particularly large spike of ice. Die, you ugly bastard! Kachan? Let's go! Mina immediately ran towards the shout, followed closely by the rest of the group. Todoroki ran next to the vigilante in the back of the group. The same curiosity came back full force, crawling up Izuku's throat until, "Why do you not use your fire?" He wasn't graced with a response. "Eat the rich." "Shh." The black-haired girl stopped them, slowly peeking around a pillar. Bakugo and a red-haired boy were attempting to fight a man practically as tall as the ice spikes themselves. He had white skulls covering his body with purple eyes. With a roar, he shot ice shards the size of Izuku's whole shin from his tail. The blonde hardly dodged, while the redhead hardened? A rock quirk? A shell? Maybe a different and not the time. The two were thoroughly beat up, uniforms ripped and gashes prominent on Bakugo. No pain was visible on his face, only a familiar smirk. Too bad the vigilante knew this well enough to see how he clutched at his arm, the tremors of his fingertips. He was pushing his limits. "Is that all you got?" "Wait!" Izuku glanced further back to see a boy holding two thumbs up, laying flat on his back next to an unconscious Midnight. The Iceman lunged forward the same time Mina chucked some of her acid in front of him. To their horror, he didn't even flinch. But now he knew where they were. "Bakugo!" she called out cheerily. "Gary, shit, duck!" Their group lunged in all different directions as the thick tail shattered the ice into pieces. Izuku's vision went black as he made it to a hiding spot between two smaller ice pieces. He really tried. He knew he'd be overtaken by the ice if he stayed still for long. But his limbs were too heavy. He shut his eyes. That is the end of chapter 36 of So Keep On Going With Your Silly Dream by Piter on AO3. If you like this, please go support the original author. Thank you so much for listening. Hope you have a great day.